The consciousness and the cosmos, a path to one's own inner cosmos, in assistance of a more profound understanding of the current planetary transition.
A stimuli that accompanies the pilgrim in his return to his cosmic home. The Consciousness and the Cosmos, podcast of Uksim Planetary Service Centre.
Hello, dear listeners. My name is Tarun. Ara Vinak and myself will be hosting the program.
Today, let's dive into the fascinating interplay between the four elements water, fire, air, and earth, and their connection to human consciousness.
We'll uncover how these elemental forces shape our thoughts, emotions, and experiences, and explore the profound ways they influence our lives.
Together, we will embark on an enlightening journey that bridges the natural world with the depths of the universal cosmic substance manifests as an etheric physical substance, not only within the universal cosmic field, but also in relation to all aspects of the cosmic fluid and elements it utilizes to create conditions, namely water, fire, earth, and air. Additionally, there are other elements we may be unaware of, because within our planetary, systemic, and galactic scope of existence, it is not our role to experience or engage with fields governed by or influenced by these activated elements.
Although we already have four elements to work with, our understanding of evolution is lacking, which affects our rehearsal of it. Unfortunately, this is why we have not fully embraced the element of fire, preventing it from empowering us to take actions of a higher purpose. Water, unfortunately, was an element with which we maintained a very poor relationship through an emotional body that finds in water its empathic element. Not to mention the earth element that we densified for two reasons. The animal densification that we maintained with our physical body and the burying of corpse and the pouring of animals and human blood into the earth, which densified the character of the earth element and the air element. The same, because we limited ourselves to a poor relationship with the intuitive field.
Most beings here lack an intuitive openness. This is why our relationship with the air element has been primarily based on atmospheric gases, which we commonly identify as air, rather than being connected to a higher intuitive understanding. The supramental aspect truly serves as a foundation from which the air element, similar to water, offers synthesis and vibratory energy and magnetic patterns. This connection allows the air element to revitalize our mental fire, in terms of energy speaking, of course. We did not allow it. The mental element, through the mental body, offering purification to the emotional body, where the water element is present. The emotional element flexibilizing the physical etheric body, which we did not do That is why the whole chain was truncated. So let's see, what does the element of fire symbolize in relation to human consciousness? Daniel Gagliardo continues.
The mental realm is like a field that is burning due to the presence of impurities. Each aspect of our being corresponds to different elements. The physical, etheric body relates to the earth element. The emotional body is connected to water. The mental body is associated with fire. And the intuitive aspect, which serves as a bridge, corresponds to air. As we move upwards, this connection continues. To visualize and understand the action of fire in this context, we should focus on its various manifestations.
Right now, what is being illustrated is the intense purification process happening at the mental level, characterized by the burning away of impurities. This means that the element associated with empathy in mental process is fire. Humanity continuously clutters the psychic layer with unstable and selfish thoughts, as well as with primitive and speculative feelings. In essence, we are contributing to this psychic layer through both astral and mental emissions. At its core, this layer is influenced by the activity of fire in the mental realm and water in the lower aspect of the psychic layer. This is why there is so much emphasis on purification through fire and water on the planet right now. We have created chaos within our emotional bodies and misused our minds. What is the relationship between the elements and the level of consciousness? Daniel Gagliardo answers.
El elemento tierra, ¿sí?, opera como catalizador tanto del cuerpo etérico físico como de la conciencia divina del regente.
The element earth operates as a catalyst for both the physical etheric body and divine consciousness, the regent. The element water operates at the level of the emotional body and the monada, the spirit. The element fire operates at the level of both the mental body and the body of light. The element air operates only at the intuitive level, that is, the level where the soul is polarized when it's awake. In one of the books by Figueira, there is a map describing the connection between the elements and the consciousness. Could you tell us something about that? Daniel responds.
Lo que está representado son distintas densidades a nivel vibratorio y magnético. ¿Sí? El elemento, los elementos van a seguir existiendo.
What is represented are different densities at the vibratory and magnetic levels. The elements will continue to exist. That map represents for our limited current consciousness vibratory and magnetic aspects of the capacity of our elements under the higher evolutionary law. What you basically see on the map is the earth element and the water element, with a totally atypical distribution that does not represent the current characteristics of continents and oceans. But what we are seeing there is clearly the dark space between the vibrational and magnetic pattern of the earth element and the vibrational and magnetic pattern of the water element, adapted, we insist, symbolically speaking, so that we can understand what the map is about. So, the water and the earth elements, fundamentally, are the ones we understand best within the concrete context, because air and fire are not concrete for us, even though cosmically they are concrete matter.
¿Sí? Para nosotros lo concreto es más la tierra, fundamentalmente, y el agua. Después el aire y el fuego, insistimos, cada uno lo percibe como puede. Entonces,
so the elements of water and earth are fundamentally the ones we understand best within the specific context, because air and fire are not something concrete for us, even though cosmically they are concrete matter. For us, what is concrete is more fundamentally earth and water. Then air and fire, each person perceives them as they can. Therefore, each element will have its own characteristics related to the pattern of the higher evolutionary law. And this map is trying to capture under current karmic framework something that will not be like that will respond in terms of elements to other vibratory patterns, to energy ranges that are much higher, more subtle, subjective aspects of those elements that we cannot know today because we do not have the possibility to perceive them. Where on the planet are these elements present in this way? Daniel Gagliardo answers, in the fields of the current planet that are under the higher law of evolution, which is why we cannot perceive them, because when they are under the higher law of evolution, those patterns we call elements are not tangible to the senses, which are limited by the law of karma. Being in a karmic field, we cannot avoid, unless we become aware and attentive, we cannot avoid understanding the earth element, the water element, the fire element, and also the air element. We cannot help but see aspects of mineral life symbolized. We cannot help but see it. For us, all these fields are related to mineral life. Now, can these elements exist if they will not have the correspondence of the support of the presence of mineral substance in the future? We can understand it this way. About 2 weeks ago, we talked about how the elements are found in the lower counterpart of the 7 levels of the cosmic physical, as well as in the upper counterpart. So in that same way that the element earth presents the divine consciousness that has no mineral to express itself, in the same way that the element water founds or offers its correspondence at the monadic spiritual level, which is not expressed in any mineral. So too does the body of light finds its correspondence in the element fire. There is a format of elements that, according to the law that govern them, or the law that involves them in an evolutionary expression, may or may not offer correspondence with kingdom such as the mineral kingdom. In the future, in those 7 levels, there will not be a direct correspondence as there is today in the 3 lower levels or in the 4, with some types of mineral expression, but rather will be a vibratory and magnetic expression of a higher order, transcending the direct relationship with minerals. What we understand as elements is an aspect of the universal cosmic substance. So we have to understand, we have to break the rigid relationships and dependencies we have in order to interpret the elements, which are an aspect of that universal cosmic substance that expresses itself in a way that it's necessary. So when the universal cosmic substance expresses itself as the earth element related to the 7th sublevel in the physical etheric body, it is a totally different condition than when it expresses itself in a divine consciousness, in what would be Adi, or primary substance. They are the same elements, but under totally different evolutionary magnetic patterns. Then the element of water is found both in the monada and in the emotional body. In the mind, that element of fire, just as it's found in the body of light. It is not that it comes from above to below. These elements offer an indispensable, irreplaceable basis for the expression of each core of consciousness and quality, the energy of each core of consciousness. When we say that the earth element is found at the divine level, What it offers us, an energy field, qualified in a particular way, so that divine consciousness can act physically and cosmically. But when we find it in the seventh sublevel, in the physical etheric body, it qualifies conditions so that the physical etheric body can offer its function and offer a specific karmic field. The same element takes on totally different aspects, which with a totally different qualification.
Let's take a moment to explore what we really mean when we talk about misuse. What context are we considering? Essentially, the connection of the mind with an unstable, self-centered emotional body often leads to a cycle of complaints among humanity. The emotional state of humanity has become primarily focused on complaining, waiting, and making demands. Most people's feelings and emotions are selfish, driven by personal ambitions and desires. Instead of elevating the mind and guiding the emotional center towards growth, it has become fragmented due to countless demands and emotional congestions. As a result, the mind has become an accomplice, creating rational justifications to defend these emotional or astral needs. This is the problem we face now, caught between water and fire. We have allowed these purifying processes to reach such intensity and condition. Air represents the condition or quality of the intuitive field of the intuitive laws. The element of air represents the intuitive level. Above the intuitive level, the spiritual is also based on the fire element, but in a higher condition. The monadic level is based on the water element, like the emotional, but in a higher condition of water element. And the regent, the divine consciousness, is based on an expression of the earth element, but in the higher counterpart. In other words, there are different levels of existence: the divine level, the physical level, and the earth level. The monada and the emotional body associated with water element. The mind and the spiritual level linked to the fire element. And finally, the intuitive level, which is characterized by the air element. The intuitive level stands out as it does not involve repetition or synthesis, existing instead as a field of inflection. We are talking about the capacity that the mind must assume as a function of intuitive stimuli. So before we come to function in an absolutely stable way in an intuitive condition, the fire has to find in our mind a higher characteristic through which the fire, fueled by the intuitive flows, crepitates in a higher way and conducts what has to be conducted in matter. Before we can begin to function intuitively, we first need to experience the mind operating at a higher level. This means it must express itself with a more refined version of the fire element, rather than in a crude and primitive manner. Under the law of karma, the fire that drives our experiences is often raw and fricative. However, this same fricative fire has a higher counterpart in its expression, just as it is true for all laws across different levels. In any realm or dimension, we can find lower platform within the certain range as well as a corresponding higher platform within that same range. The mind must begin to flame, to function through intuitive breathing under a higher aspect of fire. That is, it must express a higher fire before the consciousness begins to function in an intuitive mode, fully and completely. The air element functions solely at the intuitive level, which is the level where the soul is polarized when awakened. There is a connection between the four elements and human consciousness, as illustrated in a Figura book, which features a map showing how these elements relate to planetary transitions. In other words, there are different levels of existence: the divine level, the physical level, and the earth level. The monada and the emotional body associated with water element. The mind and the spiritual level linked to the fire element. And finally, the intuitive level, which is characterized by the air element. The intuitive level stands out as it does not involve repetition or synthesis, existing instead as a field of inflection. We are talking about the capacity that the mind must assume as a function of intuitive stimuli. So before we come to function in an absolutely stable way in an intuitive condition, the fire has to find in our mind a higher characteristic through which the fire, fueled by the intuitive flows, crepitates in a higher way and conducts what has to be conducted in matter. Before we can begin to function intuitively, we first need to experience the mind operating at a higher level. This means it must express itself with a more refined version of the fire element, rather than in a crude and primitive manner. Under the law of karma, the fire that drives our experiences is often raw and fricative. However, this same fricative fire has a higher counterpart in its expression, just as it is true for all laws across different levels. In any realm or dimension, we can find lower platform within the certain range as well as a corresponding higher platform within that same range. Each element possesses unique characteristics that align with the principles of higher evolutionary laws. This map seeks to encapsulate within a contemporary karmic work frame the way elements resonate with various vibrational patterns and energy frequencies that are significantly higher, more subtle, and subjective. Currently, these aspects of the elements are unknown to us because we lack the necessary insights and capabilities to understand them. Have you ever wondered where on earth you can find these elements in such unique formations? In the fields of the present planet that are under higher evolutionary law, we cannot perceive them because when they are under higher evolutionary law, those patterns that we call elements are not tangible for the senses, which the law of karma limits. Being in a karmic field, we cannot avoid understanding the various elements, earth, water, fire, and air, unless we become aware of the attentive. In these elements, we inevitably see symbolized aspects of mineral life. All of these fields are interconnected and related to the mineral life. How will these elements exist without the support of mineral substances in the future? We can understand it in this way. We talked about the elements being found in the lower counterpart of the 7 levels of the cosmic physical as in the upper counterpart. So just as the element earth represents the divine consciousness, which has no mineral to express itself, just as the element water finds or offers its correspondence to the monadic level, which does not express itself as any mineral, so does the body of light, which finds its correspondence in the element fire. The format of elements varies based on the governing laws that apply to them and their evolutionary expressions. Currently, in the lower 3 or 4 levels, there is a direct correspondence with certain mineral qualities. However, in the future, at these 7 levels, this direct correlation will no longer exist. Instead, there will be a vibrational and magnetic expression of a higher order that transcends the direct relationship with minerals. Daniel, what we understand as elements is actually a part of the universal cosmic substance. To truly interpret the elements, we must break free from the rigid relationships and dependencies we have formed. The elements are expressions of that universal cosmic substance manifesting its way that are necessary. So, the universal cosmic substance, when expressed as the earth element related to the 7th sublevel, to the physical etheric body, is of a totally different condition than how it is expressed in the divine consciousness, in what we would be Adi or primary substance. They are the same elements but under totally different evolutionary magnetic patterns. The water element is present in both the monada and the emotional body, while the fire element can be found in the mind and the light body. These elements do not operate solely from top-down approach. Instead, they provide an essential and irreplaceable foundation for the expression of each nucleus of consciousness and shape the energy of every consciousness nucleus. When the earth element is described at the divine level, it provides an energy field that is specifically qualified for divine consciousness to manifest in a cosmic and physical manner. However, when this element is present at the seventh sub-level of the physical etheric body, it creates conditions that enable the physical etheric body to perform its functions and establish a specific karmic field. The same element, therefore, takes on entirely different aspects with different qualifications.
This enriched edition of the Consciousness and the Cosmos showcases a selection of insightful recordings featuring the teachings of Daniel Gagliardo, the visionary instructor and founder of Uksim, recorded during vibrant Cosmosophy gatherings held across Europe and the serene landscape of Uksim in Argentina. This current planetary instruction, offered by Daniel Gagliardo, take listeners into a realm of deep understanding and cosmic exploration.